Hey guys, welcome back to another Late Night Strange. So today's topic, we are going to be discussing about ghosts. The topic of ghosts has gained its popularity throughout the years with the show Ghost Adventures and Hollywood doing the Conjuring series. Those of you who love ghost stories also probably heard about the Warren Files. But today we're just going to be discussing about some of the things that I've seen and that has happened to me throughout the years growing up as a kid all the way till adulthood. I know this topic of ghosts has been saturated throughout YouTube, but this is just my take on it and what I have experienced over the years. So those of you who don't want to hear about ghosts, feel free to skip this podcast. So before we start talking about my experience, let me ask you this question. Do you believe in ghosts? Most people will say they don't or never experienced anything paranormal, but has had some questionable things happen in their lifetime, usually following after a death of a parent, sibling, or somebody close in their family. So it is a topic when I ask, one would feel very uncomfortable talking about. But most people, when I tell them, hey, I believe in ghosts, I've seen something, they'll then open up to their own experiences. And I don't know. It's going to be an interesting night talking about this. So before I move on to my personal experiences, I just want to touch on what is a ghost. So the concept of a ghost, also known as a specter, is based on an ancient idea that a person's spirit exists separately from his or her body and may continue to exist after that person dies. Because of this idea, many societies begin to use funeral rituals as a way to ensure that the dead person's spirit will not return to haunt the living. We could even go as far as to say that, places that are haunted are usually believed to be associated with some kind of occurrences or emotions in the ghost's past. They are often a former home or a place where he or she has died. Aside from that, actual ghost apparitions, traditional sightings of haunting range from strange noises, lights, odors, or breeze. Sometimes people will smell perfumes, cigars, bells that ring spontaneously at night, or music instrument that just plays on their own, like the famous piano that just plays by itself in a rickety old house. These are just a few things that are associated with ghosts, but there are just so much more things we could get into. So tonight I'll be sharing my personal experiences growing up with the paranormal, and with that I'll be changing the names of my family members to keep them unknown. So when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I woke up. It was broad daylight, and I looked at the edge of my bed, and I saw my grandma. The only issue about that is my grandma passed away 2 days ago already, and she was all in black clothes, pretty much pitch black. She was kind of crouched down in that frog stance. I remember her hair being like wet. It's like she just got out of the shower or something. Other than that, the one thing that creeped me out the most was her face did not look like my grandma. Her face was kind of like a dog. She looked like a dog. To be exact, she kind of looked like a black lab with wet, scruffy hair and just crouched down looking at me. When I saw that, I just started freaking crying, just hysterically. I'm just crying bloody murder. And my mom was in the kitchen cooking that time, and she heard me crying, so she ran as fast as she can to our room. And when she opened the door, right before she opened the door, my grandma just pretty much went right under the bed. It was kind of like this swooshing motion where she just got like pulled under the bed. And right when she went under the bed, my mom opened the door. And then I was just crying. I couldn't say anything at all. I was just pointing under the bed. She was, saying in Hmong, like, what's going on, what's going on. And then I didn't say anything at all. I just kept crying and crying and crying. My younger brother was sleeping next to me. He woke up and he started crying. And I just kept pointing under the bed. And my mom looked, and then she saw absolutely nothing at all. So that was my first encounter with something paranormal. And in our culture, my dad is a shaman. So he did his thing, and then he looked it up. And then he was like, hey, don't be afraid. It's just your grandma coming back to visit you guys before she goes. And throughout all those freaking years, I thought that was, a dream. I had dreams about it over and over again, but it came in random spurs. So I'll have the same dream, and then 3 or 4 months later, I'll have that same dream again. And that went on throughout my whole childhood until one day I woke up and my mom was in the living room talking to her friends, telling ghost stories. And she just so happened to bring up that story. And then I went to her, I was like, did that really happen? And she was like, yes, like that really happened. You actually, you really saw your grandma before she, went to the afterlife. So, yeah, that was extremely weird. But after that, I got really obsessed with trying to figure out why she came like that, and why did she didn't come as the grandma that I knew, and why did she have a dog face? So, doing my research, the only thing that I found was this description of a ghost manifestation article. Supposedly, spirits can't take the form of a human body because it takes too much energy. So to take on a form of an animal, something like that, it's less energy than to take on a human form. This explains the reason for the half human and half animal. Whether it's true or not, I don't care because that was what gave me closure and that's what made me move on with my life. Another explanation was I've seen a dog man, and we could talk all about that later, but yes, that was the second thing that I thought about. The other thing that pretty much correlates with the first explanation of energy is the 8 stages of poltergeist. I'll be going through that right now. So, stage one is the beginning. That is when you start registering sounds and noises around the house, mainly scratchings on the wall. Stage two is usually the noises. You start hearing knocks on glass, or wood, or loud cracking noise. This is usually people brushing it off, saying that the house is settling down, it's getting closer to winter, and just kind of brush it off, until it moves on to stage three. So stage three is usually moving objects. This is when objects move from places to places. If you live alone in a house and you put a controller on your couch and you know that you put it there, and somehow it ends up in the bathroom or ends up in a different room. Stage four is abort and disabort. That's when objects pretty much disappear and appear out of nowhere. So when an object appears, that's what we call abort. When it disappears, that's what we call disabort. Stage five is usually the communication part. And that is when you start noticing everything happening already, and then you get somebody, or you try to communicate with whatever's doing the haunting in your house. This is when you watch those ghost hunter shows where they're like 2 knocks for yes, 1 knock for no, and you start communicating that way. That is stage five, usually called communication. Stage six, climax. This is usually when poltergeist activity will just increase. Those of you who watch the Conjuring series, stage six is when they're all just freaked out, sleeping in their living room, and nobody wants to sleep in their own room. And that's usually the stage six, where everybody just so freaked out to the point where they're just like, we're not going anywhere. We gotta have a buddy to come with us to go to the bathroom. That is stage six. So stage seven is where it starts declining. This is when you have a priest come in and they start blessing the house. They start doing all the things, walking around the house. This is when they're trying to make the poltergeist activity gradually weaker and weaker and weaker. Last but not least, stage eight is where it all ends. This is where they come in and do all the exorcism that you see in the movies. It's extremely rare to have an exorcism, as you guys probably know already. But that is stage 8, where everything just pretty much ends there. So that is all the 8 stages of poltergeist activities. Those of you who are wondering, why am I telling you guys all of this stuff? Well, another thing to that too was, if you look at all the 8 stages, poltergeist activity feeds on fear. So it, starts out by trying to make you notice it. And then after that, kind of freaks you out a little bit, and starts gradually increasing, trying to scare the crap out of you. So the more you fear, the more they feed on that fear, and supposedly, the more fear they absorb from you, they can manifest themselves and make them appear in front of you. So going back to the first thing, like I was like, you know what, energy, it takes a lot of energy to have a full human body spirit. That's the reason why my grandma took the form of an animal on her face, of course. But that's just my speculation on that part. And it might be all just in my head, you know, but it is all in my head. But you know what? That gives me closure. That made me move on. You know, when I discover or when I did a lot of research about all this stuff, suddenly is weird. All the dreams just disappeared. So kind of weird. But you know what? Even though it's not true at all, even though all this is all fairy tale made up, it actually helped me move on with my life and gave me closure. So that is the reason why I want to just kind of bring up the 8 stages and talk a little bit about that. But another reason why I want to talk about that is because you know, while we were growing up, we actually moved from Fresno, California to Wausau, and that's where my dad's resting place is. He passed away a long time ago of leukemia back in 1998, and ever since his passing, it was just me, my brothers, sisters, and my mom, and we moved from places to places to places. And it didn't really matter where we moved to. It seems like every single house that we moved to was haunted. And there was one point in time in our life where we moved to this house, and we experienced the, you know, everything from, you know, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to stage 6, to the part where we were just so freaked out of what was doing the, you know, what was haunting us. And we all slept in my mom's small little room. You know, as it fed more and more on you know, especially our fear, you know, like it was so crazy to the point where, like, my mom actually even saw it, you know. And you know, usually adults, they like to comfort the kids or tell them, hey, you know what, maybe you're just, you know, dreaming, or, you know, seeing things or hearing things. But it got to the point where it actually freaked her out too, and she actually saw this manifestation of a little girl. And it got so bad to the point where we left everything and we just dipped. I mean, the only thing we went back for is our computer and our PS3. And that is the crazy story that we went through during my middle school year. But I will get into that story some other time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this small little short episode of me telling about my ghostly experience. For those of you who have ghost experience, please drop them down in the comment below. But I just want to thank everybody for coming and listening to me tonight, rambling on about my own experiences. Other than that, I would like to, you know, go forward with just having these small short stories in between longer documentary style videos. And again, don't forget to drop down some comments down below about your ghostly experience. No matter if it's major or minor or major, drop them down. I know that every single time when I go to other YouTube channels, I like to read comments and just kind of, you know, scan through the comments to see if there's any creepy stories. I read them. I know a lot of people read them, so feel free to share your stories. I just want to say thank you guys again for dropping by and listening to The Late Night Strange. Thanks, guys, and stay spooky.